Good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the Spring 2016 commencement and hooding ceremony of the University of Memphis Cecil C. Humphreys School of Law. Before we begin, please take a moment to turn off or silence your cell phones. Thank you. Would you now please stand for the playing of the national anthem sung by our very own graduating student, Kimberly Ford.
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the lands of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow, what a great start. Thank you, Kimberly, for that beautiful rendition of our national anthem. And if all can please be seated. I'd like to welcome you again to this momentous event, an event that acknowledges and celebrates several years of very hard work by the 92 graduating students who are here to receive their academic hood, having completed the requirements for the Juris Doctor degree. Today's graduates include one student who has completed the requirements for the dual JD MBA degree. One student has also completed the requirements for the dual JD MA in political science. Additionally, there are 3 students receiving certificates in advocacy, 3 receiving certificates in business law, 7 receiving certificates in health law, and 2 receiving certificates in tax. We're privileged to have with us on stage today several very distinguished university, law school, and other officials. Most of these individuals will play an active role in today's ceremony, and I have the great honor to recognize Mr. Leo Bierman, who will be our commencement speaker today, Dr. Rudd on the far right, who is president of the University of Memphis, and he'll confer the degrees upon our graduates on behalf of the university. We also have the president of our law alumni chapter, David Poole. He'll also serve as pronouncer for the ceremony. I'd also like to recognize Assistant Dean of Admissions and Recruiting and Scholarships, Dr. Sue Ann McClellan, Jamie Johnson, our law school registrar, our Director of Diversity, Jackie O'Brien, who are serving as marshals for today's ceremony. Maybe the 3 of you can stand up and so you can be recognized as well. I can see you. I'd also like to thank Professor David Romance and Associate Dean Steve Mulroy, who will be assisting with the hooding during today's ceremony, and they'll be up on stage in a few moments. We appreciate all of your participation in today's commencement ceremonies. Obviously, this event wouldn't be possible without all your hard work and all of your effort. Many members of our distinguished law faculty are also here to celebrate this milestone in the lives and careers of our students, and I'd like to recognize them. I'll ask each faculty member to stand when I call your name and to remain standing until all faculty members have been introduced. So I'll begin with Elena Allen, Linda Black, Jeremy Bach, Ralph Brazier, Demetria Frank, Amy Campbell, who I skipped over, Janet Good, Donna Harkness, D.R. Jones, Daniel Keel, Andrew McClurg, Bill Kratzky, Barbara Krachevsky, Boris Mamluk, Danny Shafson, Kevin Smith, Jody Wilson, Chris Zuisa, Gene Shapiro, and John Newman. Actually, I also see David Ramos on my far left of the bright lights. So David, stand up too, please. I'd now like to introduce Mr. John Babango of the Ferris Babango Law Firm, who will present the Ferris Babango Faculty Scholarship Award. John, if you can join me on stage. The Ferris Babango Faculty Scholarship Award was established in 2011 through the generosity of John's firm, Ferris Babango PLC. The award honors outstanding faculty scholarship and the recipient. Congratulations, Professor Newman, on an outstanding piece of scholarship. And thank you, Mr. Babango, for the generous award. Now I'm pleased to introduce Preston Battle. He's the president of the Student Bar Association, who will make brief remarks and introduce recipients of the Professor of the Year and Adjunct of the Year awards. Preston is from right here in Memphis. Preston has been an outstanding SBA president, an excellent student, and a person whom I have very much enjoyed working with during this past year. I'm confident we'll hear many, many more good things about Preston in the years ahead, so please join me in welcoming Preston Battle.
One of the benefits of going to law school in a robust and diverse legal market like Memphis is the availability of adjunct professors who practice at the highest level of their respective fields and who give back, imparting their knowledge and wisdom on the incoming classes of legal professionals. This year's Adjunct Professor of the Year perfectly fits that criteria. Tony Alexander is incredibly talented and well-respected in the fields of food and drug law, trademark law, and compliance. And while those may not sound like the most interesting subjects to some of you, his students reported that his engaging teaching style and approachable manner made his classes some of their favorites in law school. I don't know if food and drug law has anything to do with this, but apparently he never missed an opportunity to talk about his love of seafood in his home state of Maryland. Students told me he is extremely kind, thorough, and patient, which is always a good thing when especially working with law students. This year's Adjunct Professor of the Year award goes to Mr. Tony Alexander. This year's Professor of the Year hardly needs an introduction because he is synonymous with the University of Memphis Cecil C. Humphrey School of Law. Having joined the law faculty in 1976, only 16 years after the law school was founded, he has now completed his 40th year in training and educating Memphis law graduates in the fields of criminal law and a wide range of constitutional law subjects. To imagine the kind of impact that this professor has had over the last 40 years, the class size at Memphis Law has averaged around 150 students per year. Being a 1L professor, that means he has taught at least 75 students a year for his 40 years, which comes out to an estimate, might I say a very conservative estimate, that he has taught at least 3,000 lawyers in his career. His colleagues describe him as an extremely humble, gracious, and hardworking person, having done the grunt work on various committees over the years. His students have found him to be an absolute joy to learn from in class, studying some of the most foundational courses in the law under him. He received his law degree from the University of Virginia, where he studied core classes like contracts and legal methods under one of the greatest legal minds in American jurisprudence, the late Honorable United States Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. He came to Memphis Law only 3 years after receiving his LLM from New York University, and there are 2 generations of lawyers who are so deeply thankful that he chose to make this his home. To the class of 2016, he embodies the principle that you never start learning after you leave school, and life is always there to give you important lessons. Although he is retiring this year, he has built an incredible legacy that will continue to impact the lives and educations of law students for many years to come. The 2016 Professor of the Year Award goes to Professor Eugene Shapiro.
Thanks, Preston, and thanks so much, class of 2016. Doesn't that sound good? This is just so very meaningful to me. For me, my time in the classroom, far and away, has been the most important time here, and I'm so glad that you valued it too. Our work together, exploring the law, has been engaging, demanding, and sometimes surprising. But in the end, for me, it's been just plain irreplaceable. I've been puzzling over what I'd like to say to you right now as you head in such different directions. During our time together, I've been in the business of helping you to see things you don't already know. So first, let's look at all you've accomplished. You each already have your own personal blueprint for achieving success. We're all here to commemorate and celebrate that. That's what you already know. Moving now to something you probably haven't focused on, I'd like to ask that you strive for something more during your careers, something more than the professional excellence and outstanding service to your clients that you'll pursue. I want you to strive for personal fulfillment in your work. You see, unfortunately, there are a lot of unhappy, excellent lawyers. The law can lend itself to measuring fulfillment by means of external benchmarks only. Winning the big case, negotiating that final transaction, and so on. Of course you want to achieve those milestones. That's what you're out to accomplish as a professional. But so often your efforts and hard work will be focused upon matters that lie along the way. Be open to those times of professional fulfillment which are there, if only you see them. Enjoy and appreciate using your skills, solving that intricate problem, mastering that new subject, providing the advice that's so needed by that client. Be open to allowing yourselves to experience real and ongoing professional satisfaction. Use your inner compass. Once you start, it will become part of how you approach the professional lives that lie ahead. I hope that you and your families and friends enjoy this wonderful day to the fullest. I wish each of you the very best. And again, thanks so much.
Thank you, Preston, and congratulations to Professor Shapiro and to Professor Alexander as well. I've asked Jean to remain on stage with me for just a moment. As you now know, and I think as many of you knew already, this commencement will be the last one in which we have the pleasure and honor of having Professor Jean Shapiro with us as a part of our full-time faculty. Professor Shapiro retires at the end of this academic year, which I guess is today. And to mark the occasion, Professor Shapiro's faculty colleagues have adopted the following resolution, which I'd like to read to you now. Whereas Eugene Shapiro joined the faculty of the Cecil C. Humphreys School of Law in 1976 and has now completed his 40th year of service. Whereas throughout his many years of service to the School of Law, Eugene Shapiro has excelled as a teacher and scholar and has made lasting contributions to the School of Law and to its students. And whereas Eugene Shapiro has decided to retire from his position as Professor of Law at the end of the 2015-2016 academic year, now therefore, the faculty of the Cecil C. Humphreys School of Law hereby expresses its deep satisfaction to Eugene Shapiro for his long, dedicated, and productive service to the School of Law, and hereby wishes him a rich, rewarding, and well-deserved retirement. Please join me in a round of applause for Professor Shapiro to acknowledge his great service. It's now my pleasure to introduce our commencement speaker, Mr. Leo Bierman, Jr. Leo Bierman, Jr. is Senior Counsel in the Memphis office of Baker, Donaldson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz. Mr. Bierman graduated magna cum laude from Yale University in 1957, and he was selected to join Phi Beta Kappa. He received his law degree from Harvard in 1960. A litigator with 47 years of experience, Mr. Bierman has represented clients including city and county governments, as well as a number of national, regional, and local companies in a wide variety of matters. He's consistently recognized by leading attorney listings including Best Lawyers in America, Chambers USA, and Mid-South Super Lawyers. Mr. Bierman is a well-known speaker and writer. A native Memphian, he's been significantly involved in the Memphis community. His professional leadership is equally notable and includes former membership on the Tennessee Supreme Court Advisory Commission charged with drafting rules of evidence for the state of Tennessee, the Tennessee Supreme Court Advisory Commission on amending the Tennessee Rules of Civil Procedure, and the Tennessee Supreme Court Disciplinary Board Hearings Committee. In addition to his well-respected legal practice, Mr. Bierman has demonstrated an exemplary level of involvement in the Memphis community. His involvement has included serving as a member of the board of directors of the Metropolitan Interfaith Association, as president of each of the Memphis Orchestral Society, Goodwill Homes for Children, and Temple Israel, and as a teacher at Temple Israel Religious School since 1960. He's also been actively involved in the Cecil C. Humphreys School of Law at the University of Memphis. In addition to his service as an adjunct professor for the School of Law for at least 2 decades, he also served as honorary chairman for our annual campaigns in 1991-92 and 92-93, and as honorary chairman for the annual campaign for the school's law library in 1991-92. Mr. Bierman has received well-deserved recognition for his efforts and contributions, including being awarded the 1993 Humanitarian Year of the Year Award by the National Conference of Christians and Jews, and the 1994 Distinguished Friend Award given by the University of Memphis. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Leo Bierman.
ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's been a long trial, 3 years in fact. And today the trial ends. And you, ladies and gentlemen, have to render a verdict. And the members of our trial team, all of whom are regaled in front of you, we're concerned about what that verdict will be. We know that your verdict will certainly be for the practice of law. But we want something more than that. We want a verdict for what I would call the profession of the law. And that's why over the years we have emphasized, and today in summary, in this final jury argument, and I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that it's become obvious I'm overdressed for a jury argument. I want to emphasize what we hope and have hoped over the years to persuade you to come in with a verdict not only for the practice of law, but for the profession of the law and all that means. We've even brought experts so that you would know exactly what the point is. Experts at considerable expense to prove our point, but we think it well worth it. For example, we think there needs to be, from all of you, a recognition that you are communicators. You, ladies and gentlemen, are going to make your living being a communicator, either to a jury, to a judge, through a contract, drafting a will. It makes no difference. You've got to know how to make words march. The best way to do that, our trial team thinks, is to read the greatest communicators who ever lived. So you should read and continue to read Shakespeare and Melville and Dickens and Tolstoy. Not only because they are great communicators and can teach you how to communicate even better, but because they will give you insight into human nature. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we do as lawyers. We need that kind of insight into human nature. Secondly, and when we made that point, we brought in Sir Walter Scott. You remember he wrote Ivanhoe, and it was some difficulty getting him in to the trial. Nonetheless, he said that a great trial lawyer, if a lawyer has no feel or possession of literature or history, he is merely a mechanic, a working mason. But if he has some facility for those, he may call himself an architect. I want you, ladies and gentlemen, to be architects of the law. We also need, and any judge in this room will tell you, and any lawyer in this room will tell you, a greater emphasis on civility. For some reason over the years, we have lost that in the bar. And increasingly, more and more, we are losing civility in the handling of our affairs. Civility with our fellow attorneys, civility in the courtroom, civility with our own clients. I urge you to break that trend of incivility and work hard for what our other expert, or our second expert, Mr. William Shakespeare, pointed out in Taming of the Shrew. You remember he testified that one should vie mightily as adversaries do in law, and then eat and drink as friends. We need that. We need that. The third point I want to make, and our trial team wants to make, is the question of leadership. You, ladies and gentlemen, have been trained to be leaders. You have been trained to recognize problems and solve them. That's what leadership is all about, recognizing problems and solving them. You have a remarkable ability to do that. Many years ago, as one of our experts pointed out, Mr. Alexis de Tocqueville, he was a French political scientist and writer, and he came to the United States to find out what made democracy work in this country. Why would it work here and not elsewhere? And he decided that the issue was one that he could decipher. He wanted to know where the rule of law lay in this country. And he said that if I were asked where to place that quality of leadership, I would not place it in the rich, for they have no common tie. But I would have no hesitancy in placing it on the judicial bench and at the bar. That is you, ladies and gentlemen. You need to recognize your ability to lead. Your friends will recognize it. Your community will recognize it. And I urge you to do the same. Finally, I want to ask you to make a commitment. Not just I want to ask. My whole trial counsel here wants to ask you to make a commitment to the rule of law. Now, that sounds like a pretty good cliche. It's sort of like asking you if you would come out for motherhood and apple pie. But it is more serious than that. You will find over the years that friends, perhaps in a sarcastic way, or people who don't like lawyers, will remind you that Mr. Shakespeare said, the first thing let's do, let's kill all the lawyers. And there's always a kind of a laughter when people say that. But what Mr. Shakespeare said when he testified in our case was that he put those words into the mouth of Dick the Butcher. And Dick the Butcher, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, was one of 5 people who were committed to overthrow the government. And Dick the Butcher knew that he could not be successful as long as there were lawyers who stood up for a commitment for the rule of law. And so he failed. And so he failed. Now, dial forward about 300 years when Adolf Hitler took over the country and the mind of Germany. He knew that if he was to have his incredibly vicious way, he would have to deal with the lawyers because they stood for a commitment to the rule of law. And so he went forward, subjugating all of the lawyers in Germany, limiting what they could say, limiting what they could practice, limiting how they could operate. And some lawyers allowed that subjugation and knuckled under, but others did not. And those that did not went to the concentration camps. They went to the concentration camps, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, not because they were Jews, not because they were Catholics, not because they were Protestants, but because they were lawyers, and they stood for the rule of law. And Hitler could not handle that, nor can any dictate. And those lawyers thought that the rule of law was no cliche. It was, tragically, a lifetime commitment for them. So how shall I summarize this? Well, I'm going to use my last expert witness, and that's Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. You remember him, tall, stately gentleman, handlebar mustache. You'll remember his testimony. He was really speaking about law schools when he said at the occasion, a celebratory occasion of his own law school, he said that it is the task of a law school not simply to teach law and to turn out lawyers, but to turn out great lawyers and teach law in the grand manner. I want to borrow from Justice Holmes and urge each of you to practice law in the grand manner. What does that mean? Well, it means with skill, of course, but with the attributes, with the qualities that we have been discussing today. A commitment to civility, a commitment to leadership, a commitment to human understanding, and a commitment to the rule of law. If you follow that suggestion of Justice Holmes and practice law in the grand manner, much as Professor Shapiro discussed in his splendid comments, you will, in my judgment, have a career of service and of satisfaction. Service and satisfaction. His Honor will charge you as jurors in a few minutes to come back with a verdict. We hope the verdict will be for our clients who press for not only a verdict for the practice of law, as I said, but also for the profession of the law. The court will charge you that the burden of proof is high. It is not simply the preponderance of the evidence. It's going to be clear and convincing evidence that it will take. But each of you is capable of that. Each of you is capable of that. I want to thank all of you for allowing me to speak briefly to you today. I hope that what I've said has some merit for you. I want to congratulate you on the commencement of what I know will be a splendid career. And I want to leave you with one final thought. Do not leave your idealism. Do not leave your idealism. Never forget, when you leave this law school, why you came. Never forget, when you leave this law school, why you came. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Bierman, for those inspirational words. Thank you for your service to our law school and to our community. And thank you most for the example that you provide for our students that illustrate all the points that you made in your remarks today. We're grateful for your time and for your wisdom. I have a couple of gifts for you, small tokens. One's actually a kind of a large picture of our law school. We really like it, so we'd like you to remember it too. And also something smaller for you too. Thank you. I can deliver that to you. We've reached the portion of the program entitled Dean's Remarks and Presentation of the Candidates. And I note in my copy of the script that I was given this morning, Dean's Remarks is in very small type, and Presentation of Candidates is in large bold type with underlining. So I'll be brief. Today is called Commencement Day for good reason. It's a new beginning for our new graduates who will soon face new challenges, not least of them the bar exam later this summer. But it's also the end of 3 years of formal education here at the Cecil C. Humphrey School of Law, and for most of our graduates, the end of 20 or even more years of formal schooling. So it's both an end and a beginning for our soon-to-be graduates. The end of a sometimes stressful 3-year period of legal education, which hopefully included some good times as well, and the beginning of their legal careers. The members of this great class of 2016 begin their legal careers on the heels of an economic downturn that's tested both our nation and the legal profession. But while the economic climate is plainly warming, new lawyers today still face formidable demands and challenges. To prepare our graduates for the challenging world they're about to enter, the faculty has worked them hard during their 3 years in law school, not because the faculty enjoys seeing students struggle, though in their early days of law school some students may have felt that way, but because we understand the challenges our students face and want to do everything we can to ensure that they, like their many predecessors over the last half-century, are prepared to lead professional lives marked by accomplishment, meaning, and lasting contributions to society. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to report that the students who are sitting here today have satisfied the very high standards of the School of Law has set for them. The fact that they're here with us today is proof not only of their high aptitude, but also of their hard work, their perseverance, and their commitment to improving society. It's evidence of their ability and fitness to fulfill the heavy obligations that the legal profession places on its members, and of their capacity to serve their clients, their communities, and the public with honor and distinction. Members of the class of 2016, congratulations. You have every reason to be proud of your accomplishment. We know you've sacrificed much for this day, but today we honor not only your efforts and sacrifices, we also honor your achievements. But we all know that no one succeeds alone. So we'd be remiss if we stopped here and we did not also honor those who've helped you succeed. And now I'm not speaking of your professors or the law school staff, though they certainly deserve your thanks as well. Instead, I'm speaking of your families and friends, parents, grandparents, children, siblings, other relatives, loved ones and friends who have provided material, moral, and emotional support as well as companionship and friendship during your years in law school. So on behalf of the Cecil C. Humphrey School of Law and the University of Memphis, I'd like to express my deep thanks to all the families and friends of our soon-to-be graduates, those who could be here and those who could not. Thank you for helping these graduates succeed in law school. Thank you for being our partners in the task of producing these soon-to-be lawyers. So a round of applause for all the families and friends. Now back to our graduates. You now enter a noble profession, a profession that gives you the ability to change people's lives, indeed to change society and the world. With this great power, however, comes an even greater responsibility to use your skills as lawyers, not simply to better your own lives, but to better the lives of others. So as you enter your new profession, remember to focus not just on doing well, but more importantly, on doing good. Congratulations again to each and every one of you. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. David Rudd. Dr. Rudd was named the 12th president of the University of Memphis on May 1st, 2014. Before that, he served as university provost. Dr. Rudd brought with him to the university's presidency a distinguished academic and research record spanning almost 30 years, a record that continues to grow even as he serves as our president. I've had the pleasure of working with Dr. Rudd for 3 years, and I know from this experience that Dr. Rudd is committed to our university and has a strong and compelling vision for its future. He's also a very good friend of our law school, and we're privileged and honored to have him participate in this ceremony today. So please join me in welcoming our president, Dr. David Rudd. Dr. Rudd will confer the Juris Doctor degree on each of the graduates. Afterwards, Professor Romance and Associate Dean Mulroy will place the academic hoods on each graduate as David Poole, the president of our Law Alumni Association, introduces them. So, Dr. Rudd.
Will all of the graduates of the Cecil C. Humphrey School of Law please stand? Ladies and gentlemen of the graduating class of the Cecil C. Humphrey School of Law at the University of Memphis, with the approval of the faculty of the School of Law and upon the certification that you have fulfilled all of the requirements for graduation, and by the authority invested in me by the Board of Regents as President of the University of Memphis, I am pleased to confer the Juris Doctor degree upon you and declare that you are now entitled to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities appertaining thereunto. We take great pleasure in presenting you with the academic hood for the Juris Doctor degree as evidence of your accomplishment. Let's give them a hand. Please be seated.
Just want to note as we go through the hooding ceremony, David Poole, who will be reading the names, has to leave immediately after the hooding, so I'd like to thank him in advance. David has been an enthusiastic, unflagging, and extremely effective advocate for our law school. I very much enjoyed working with David during his tenure as president of our alumni chapter, and like to thank him now for his friendship, his support, and his service to our law school. Thank you, David. Will the first row of graduates please rise and come forward?
Cesar A. Arbelayes. Benjamin H. Arnold III, hooded by his uncle, James McCowan Smith, a 1976 graduate of the law school. James S. Atkinson, hooded by his aunt, Joyce Sealand, a 1987 graduate of the law school. William J. Auble. Walter Preston Battle IV. Brandon L. Boykin. Brian D. Burns. Lainey Kelly Cabrera. Alexander D. Camp, hooded by his father, David Camp, a 1989 graduate of the law school. Angelica M. Campbell. William J. Cannon. Jordan M. Cash, hooded by her stepmother, Anna Cash, a 2001 graduate of the law school. Robert Daniger Cobb, Jr. William J. Cranford III. Quinan Deng. Scott Davis. Phoebe P. Dossett. Jakiva R. Dotson. Sydney M. Eason. John F. Floyd. Kimberly M. Ford. Barrett L. Frederick. Mark E. Fike, Jr. Austin C. Gardner. Rachel G. Gelfand. Molly A. Glazer. Logan A. Glenn. Caroline Gordon. Kelly A. Gray. Donald S. Hackett III. William A. Hampton. Laurie N. Hayes. Matthew M. Haywood. Raven Maria Ikaza. Crystal M. Johnson. Kevin A. Johnson. Megan O. Jones. Coleman S. Kimbrough. Dustin E. Lepkowitz. Lonnie D. Lester. Carl Benjamin Lewis. Carson R. Lewis. Carlos Maldonado. Tucker K. Marshburn, hooded by his father-in-law, Lindsay Mader, a 1977 graduate of the law school. William R. McAllister III. Christopher R. Michelle. J. Vance Montgomery. William T. Morrison. Brittany E. Neal. Caitlin C. O'Connor. William C. Pannell. Kelly A. Peavyhouse. Erica R. Perry. Lakevia R. Perry. Ryan Phillips. R. Allen Porter. David Justin Prescott. Patrick Schaffler Quinn. Mitchell A. Rains. Nelson T. Rainey, hooded by his brother, Austin Rainey, a 2012 graduate of the law school. Alexander B. Robertson. Brittany F. Roberts. Joy A. Robertson. Jeffrey L. Sanderson. Ethan D. Sandifer. Faith N. Sanford. Matthew H. Schwimmer. Samuel B. Seligman. Rollins L. Simmons. Jeffrey T. Slack. Mary Catherine Smith. Sarah E. Smith. Jennifer L. Sneed. Charlisa R. Stoglin. Jason D. Strawn. Jacob D. Strawn. I had a perfect record. Jason Z. Susser, hooded by his mother, Lynn Susser, a 1994 graduate of the law school. Regina M. Thompson. Louis A. Tomako. Nicholas F. Tominello. Robert E. Turner IV, hooded by his cousin Kyle Turner, a 2015 graduate of the law school. John Aaron Vaught. Gregory A. Wagner. Darius Walker, Jr. Rodriguez Cortez Watson. John B. Westmoreland III. Victoria Adrienne Williams. Krista C. Weiniger. Jonathan M. Wolfe, hooded by his father, Bert Wolfe, a 1982 graduate of the law school. Samuel C. Wright. Caitlin E. Zeno.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2016 graduating class of the University of Memphis Cecil C. Humphreys School of Law. Traditionally, at the spring commencement ceremony, a student is selected by the graduating class to make an address. This year, the graduating class selected Vance Montgomery. Please join me in welcoming to the podium your classmate, Vance Montgomery.
Before we get going, I want to say thank you to a few people. And since I'm the one at the podium and not you, you're going to have to listen to me. I'd like to thank my folks, my mom and my dad, for putting up with me. Guys, hopefully after July I'll move out of your basement. Well, maybe we'll wait until the fall. I don't want to rush anything. But seriously, Mom, my dirty clothes hamper is full, so... I'd also like to thank my fellow classmates for choosing me to give this speech. I know it was a hard choice, and there were a lot of other great, probably more qualified people to be doing this. Barrett Frederick, moot court champion of the realm. Brandon Boykin, vice president of the SBA, and the best number 2 guy around. Phoebe Dossett. Well, you were on the list, weren't you, Phoebe? Not really sure what you did up at the school, but You were on the list. Brian Burns, our token Occupy Wall Street activist. Unfortunately, Brian, I think your aggressive socialist rhetoric would have scared the kids today. Mary Catherine Smith. Mary Catherine, SEC cheerleader, valedictorian-elect, and destined to stonewall and delay her way to greatness up at Baker Donaldson. Everybody likes to root for a long shot. Maybe one of the Sewanee frat guys could have spoken. One of y'all could have gotten up here and showed everyone how to properly funnel a beer. Kegger at y'all's place later tonight, right? Cool. Walter Preston Battle the Fourth. Walter Preston Battle the Fourth. President of all the clubs. He really made the law school great again. He built that new wall out back of the law school. And guess who he made pay for it? Arkansas. He uses all the best words, and his Facebook following is huge. Today would have been a one-man show if it were up to him, but thank God it wasn't. All great folks and probably safer choices, but you're stuck with me. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to Eric Bana for being here today. Where are you, Eric? In the back? There you are. Many of y'all might know him from his work in The Hulk or Troy or The Time Traveler's Wife. He's a great guy, and he's been like a father to me. So a special thanks to the Banas for coming out today. I know that there were some concerns about my speech, and I want to assure you that you will not hear any language that is not common at, say, a dock workers union meeting or a Tourette's convention or a profanity seminar. Rest assured. But today's about these young men and these young women sitting down here. You've all got your family and friends, and they're all so proud of you. And they should be. But what's next? The real world. Many of us have been putting off the real world for a long time. I've managed to float around academia for over a quarter of a century now. Was that a good idea? Well, it was at the time. But now we're up to our noses in student loan debt, and there's not a job in sight. I actually recently threw my resume into the Grizzlies head coaching position. I know many of you have probably heard reports that Patrick Ewing is interested in the job, but I've been in some serious negotiations with the folks up there. I can't get into the details, but let's just say the triangle offense might be in the Bluff City next year. But that's neither here nor there. It's graduation. It's all about today. What we do next, whether we make good on our debts or flee to Italy. It's just static, white noise. We've been through a lot. I remember those first few weeks of law school like it was yesterday. I remember walking into Professor Allen's classroom on that very first day, and she immediately started cold calling people without looking at a roster right out of the gate. Professor Allen, I've got a confession to make. Your class scared the absolute hell out of me. And Professor Bach, your class reminded me of some prisoner of war camp. The film Deer Hunter specifically comes to mind. Every single day you'd walk into that room, and the first thing you'd do is take out those death cards of yours. See, he had this deck of cards, and on each card there was a picture of our faces on them. And he'd walk in and he'd shuffle those cards right next to the microphone to make sure we were all watching. Then he'd draw a card. Mr. Montgomery, can you tell the class about the court's reasoning in Worldwide Volkswagen? No, sir, I can't. And Professor Shapiro, your classes were always to the point, no fluff. And that's what I liked about you. But seriously, I want to congratulate you on your retirement. Seriously. You've been a great influence on so many bored students over the years. Professor Mameluke, Boris the Blade in some circles. Congrats on the baby. You'd always butter us up after you called on us, act like you were our friend. Mr. Maldonado, so your card says you can do a back handspring. That's really cool. I've never done a back handspring. Yes, sir, I can. Well, that's really great. Now tell us, what is a chicken? There's a chicken case. And then you cross-examine us into the ground and leave us all feeling hopeless. And Professor Brazier, the archetypal Southern law professor. Your classes were fantastic. When I walked into that classroom, I felt like I was walking to some loony bin where the crazies had taken over the guards and were now running the place. But that's what life's all about. Crazy is good, normal is boring. I will admit that I took 3 of your classes, and that's probably the same number of answers I got correct on all 3 of those exams. Three years ago, we were all strangers. Now look at us. Some of us are in love. Some of us are engaged to be married. That's great. Some of us have made a lot of enemies. I'm looking at you, Lee. But the thing is, we all went through this together. And if you look around the room, so many of these people will be your friends for the rest of your life. They'll be the people you work with, people you try cases against. And that's something meaningful. The legal community is tight-knit in Memphis. And it's exciting that we're about to be a part of that community. And that brings me to Memphis. I was born and raised here. And I'll stay here probably for the rest of my life. And that's a real source of pride for me. I love this city, the good and the bad. But it's our city, and we have a responsibility. We have put ourselves in such a unique position. This Juris Doctorate isn't just a path to a paycheck. It's a path to influence. People listen to lawyers. I look around the Cecil C. Humphreys class of 2016, and I see the future leaders of this community. There's no doubt in my mind that we can make and will make an impact on this city. We won't submit to the forces of old and evil, but forge our own paths. And I challenge each and every one of you, and I challenge myself to not get caught up in the material rewards that this Juris Doctorate might bring, but to use it to help others, to influence public policy, to fight for what we believe is right. Not 3 blocks from this building, a man was shot and killed for straightening his back up and the backs of his people. He fought for what he knew in his heart to be right. And he died for it. In a sense, I envy that. I want to find some cause that I'd be willing to fight and die for. And I challenge you to do the same. Never back down, even in the face of persecution. Always do what's right, and we can make a change in this city. So to the University of Memphis, Cecil C. Humphreys School of Law, class of 2016, I commend you for a job well done. And that's it.
Thank you, Vance. Appreciate your words and your inspirational wisdom for your classmates. Thanks again. Okay. And now back to the rest of you, our graduates. This is your day. For most of you, this is the last day of your school life after 2 decades or more years of schooling. Over those many years, you've accumulated an enormous amount of knowledge, maybe a little debt. But now you're ready to put your knowledge to good use for the benefit of your clients and for society. This is truly a day of tremendous accomplishment, but all of us assembled here today, your teachers, your families, and your friends, know that many more, even greater accomplishments are sure to follow. So congratulations once again. As we send you off, we want to remind you that your relationship with the law school and the university does not end today. You'll be University of Memphis alumni forever, and your accomplishments will bring honor to your law school and pride to our students, faculty, and alumni. So stay in touch. Give us a call, send us an email, friend us on Facebook, like us on LinkedIn. In turn, we'll stay in touch with you and do our best to help and guide you whenever we can throughout your careers. So let me conclude this evening by expressing my great appreciation for some key members of our staff in particular, and I've asked the folks I'm going to mention to please rise. Assistant Dean Meredith Aiden. Meredith, where are you? I can't. She's somewhere here. She's responsible for this event. I also want to thank Carol Landers, Bridget Boyd, Linda Hayes, Holly Hazlett, Kara Phillips, Chesney McAfee, Stephanie Hope, and Marilyn Smith. And also all of our student volunteers who assisted offstage in these commencement ceremonies. And also, I want to thank the Bluff City String Quartet for the wonderful music they provided for today's ceremony. Thanks to all of you. So now I ask that you remain seated during the recessional as the platform party, the faculty, and the graduates exit. Thank you once again, and good evening.